I hope you make sure we're properly dead before you start, old Ripbeak.
Now is the only thing that's real. The police used to watch over the people. Now they're watching the people. Now is the only thing that's real.
Every half an hour, somebody would come in and I'd pour cold water on them or yell at them or whatever. And the one interrogator was, ironically enough, his name was Ogre. And so when we met this kid in Phoenix, he asked us how we felt about our music being used to torture. And I knew beforehand he was going to ask me this question. And so I kind of thought to myself, well, in a way, what else would they use to torture people? And it really upset me because it was kind of like the music we use here as dissent, was being used overseas to torture. So the idea originally was to actually create an album called Weapon, and this is where the inception of the name came. Create an album called Weapon using all of the frequencies and all of the techniques to use and make music, like make an album to actually torture people by, and have a narrative within it that runs along that basically have subliminals in all of the music and all the torture bits that would tell whoever's being tortured in Pashtun or whatever the native tongue of a lot of these regions, and Shia Sunni, all these things, and get people to say in the native tongue, although this music is being used to torture you, in America, this music is being used to fight the very thing that's doing this to you. So calm down, relax, and just we're going to approach it like that, and then actually use cover art, use it as an invoice. And invoice the American government for $666,000 for using our music illegally. And we had some traction with that because we did, on The Greater Wrong of the Right, we did a documentary that Bill, our guitar player and videographer, he's a filmmaker. He did Killing Game and all the Two Dark Part backing tapes. He did a documentary on depleted uranium and its use on the battlefield. And so we had contacts with a lot of Veterans Administration people that were interested in kind of following us up on this, but then that kind of panned out to more of a I kind of became more abstracted with it as things progressed, and that was kind of that cause was championed by a lot of other musicians whose music was being used to torture prisoners in Guantanamo. So I kind of passed on that concept, and then I kind of took a more abstract and maybe a bit of more of an esoteric look at the idea of weapon. Because the basic idea of weapon is the argument is always, guns don't kill people, it's people that kills people, or weapons don't kill people, it's people. And my idea was to let's then put the name tag of weapon directly on the forehead of the individual, because in my mind, again, in a more, esoteric way, everything we do in our lives and every thought we have, every action we take on, and every word we send out into the environment has a equal and opposite reaction, which is either positive or negative based on the intent of that action. So I started seeing people as weapons, and then I started seeing weapons all around us in different ways. Nuclear power became an interesting kind of observation in the sense that we have these buildings that give us power, that boil water to make electricity for us. And yet 96% of what comes out of them is completely toxic, and not only toxic, absolutely foreign to this planet. And these things are leaking all over the country. I know in France they're leaking. I know in America they're leaking. And of course, Fukushima is the huge canary in the coal mine, in the sense that we've basically created a system to make a very limited amount of power, and then the waste has nowhere to go and is being stored on the second and third floor of these buildings next to the reactors and the spent fuel pools, where only spent fuel is supposed to be transferred out of the core into the spent fuel pool and then into a dry cast system and carted off somewhere safely buried under tons of rockets, but that never panned out. So all this stuff is being stored in these spent fuel pools, which are just loaded weapons in themselves. So I started kind of taking a real abstract look at weapon and not kind of focusing on the topical or the kind of parochial issues in America. It's gun control right now because guns are madness, and instead took a step back and looked at the human being. And within all these things, I think then you have a chance to have a generational change within these constructs that we've created that I think started back in the middle of the last century with the advent of nuclear power and nuclear weapons. The madness began then, and we made